Hey, what is up guys, Masterleaf here, back to do another video, and today I've got another one of my highlights. It's going to be against Phoenix this time. We haven't seen Phoenix on his main account for many years, but yeah, I have a series of games versus Phoenix coming up after this without dubbed commentary. But this one here I'm going to provide dubbed commentary because it's some match that I feel like may educate some of you all when dealing with Nod on this very map, or even Marked of Kane. Now Marked of Kane is, well, a little bit trickier to beat than Nod because they have EMP. ZOCOM though, this matchup, it definitely does not favor them. They don't have artillery, and on this map artillery is key. My only artillery units as ZOCOM, well, technically it's not really an artillery unit, but you have the shatter tank, which when you focus fire at the ground with, can get a little more range. It can outrange Obelisk. Someone pointed that out to me in the YouTube comments a while back. I did not know that, but it would take obviously a lot of like babysitting, force firing the ground with shatter tank to kill an Obelisk. Not very practical in the late game, especially when there's other stuff floating around like vertigo bombers, which will just, you know, sweep up those shatter tanks. They one-shot those, and then you have the ZOCOM walkers and firehawks. Now, I consider ZOCOM walkers to be somewhat of a artillery unit. Even though they're aircraft, they have a very similar role. They can go in, take out the enemy artillery, and then escape quite quickly and easily. They have pretty decent armor with ceramic armor, plus they unload their whole magazine in like a second. So they're not going to be exposed to the SAM defense for a while. I feel like that's their best counter to artillery. It's a really fascinating unit, the ZOCOM Orca. Some people say that it's too expensive, but I'd argue that it's not to be compared with the regular Orca. The Orca is nowhere near as good as it, in my opinion, at, for example, countering Spectres or cleaning up a bunch of infantry. Obviously, regular Orcas deal horribly against infantry, whereas the ZOCOM one, it has that AoE damage. It can kill infantry extremely well. So I'm just ecoing up in this game. This is Tournament Decision No Poker Edition, so there's no second spike on this map. There is a ramp there. We are considering adding the second spike back because the only thing that made us remove that spike was the early shadow team openings. But if you're guaranteed to capture one spike, even when he goes shadow teams, it's not going to make the shadow team opening worthwhile. So I feel like that was unnecessary, removing the second spike. People ask sometimes, oh, what does no poker mean? Well, it means there's no contested Tiberium spikes to capture. The distance between your tip spike and your base is, well, not very far. It's technically your spike because it's in your side of the map, whereas a contested Tiberium spike would be in the middle, you know, the equal distance from you and your opponent. Lots of scouting and early game moves going here. As you saw there, I just packed my CV up, moved it a little bit to space my refineries out. I did that to avoid getting my third refinery clicked. This is the only map in the 1v1 map pool where you have to build a third refinery. Well, you don't have to. You can go for a second base before building a third ref there. But your first field is large enough to warrant an additional ref. It's a significantly larger tip field compared to most other 1v1 maps, so you're not required to expand ASAP on this map. There's also some nice choke points to defend with. A couple of defensive towers in the middle. Little skirmish happening here between pits and bike buggies. A couple of pred tanks mixed in as well. I knew he would go this bike buggy route. And the reason I'm upgrading infantry with Tiberium field suits and going pred tanks here is to dissuade him going for bike buggy spam. But he's continuing to go for bike buggy. I see the bike buggy. That's why I went for this strategy. Cancelled my Orcas because I knew what's the point of building Orcas if he's going for bike buggy. Got that composite armor back online. That's $1,000 for ZOCOM. 30 seconds to upgrade. All upgrades in Kane's Wrath, besides railguns and the force field generators for Skrin, take a minute for every $1,000 that you spend. So if you spend $2,000, that's 2 minutes. If you spend 3,000, that's 3 minutes. Well, actually, I've got that wrong. It's 2,000 for every minute. Yeah, it's 2,000 for every minute. My bad. You get the point, though. It's cheaper for ZOCOM, therefore it takes less time to upgrade as well. Plus, I think they look cool, the ZOCOM infantry. So I'm taking this really cool. I know that I'm a bit exposed on my left flank. And this is sort of an educational video on how I would deal with these nod players on this specific map. I'm trying to cut off all the choke points so his bike buggy can't get anywhere. I've got an army down here and an army at the top, making him split up his forces. Now the good thing about playing against nod is they don't have supercharged particle beam shredder turrets, so the viability of infantry against them is much higher than it would be against Mark of Kane. I've got all these buildings in the middle. I'm going to capitalize on this that I have. And I believe I also captured his Tiberium Spike as well. A couple of ZOCOM walkers coming out for me. Now I built these to counter obelisks specifically. I'm going to move in with my army in the bottom. And I have several options with those ZOCOM walkers. I damage his Redeemer Engineering Facility, if he has one there, or I kill the obelisk. I decide to go in for the Redeemer Engineering Facility, but then I quickly changed my mind and thought, hey, I've got this huge army here. Its DPS will remain the same if I kill the obelisk, so that's what I did. Obelisk is no longer there. And I'm going to quickly snipe this Redeemer Engineering Facility. I did cut off the bike buggy. He's got that tip core online. 4 ZOCOM walkers for me, another obelisk gets deployed. And what I want to do in my 4K mod is when those SAM turrets spawn, I want the SAM turret hub to show the tip core on it, not like when it's finished building, but when it's in the build animation, I want it to show the tip core that you see on the back. So I'm going to focus down these defensive tower. Refinery comes down. He's going to power down the refinery and fence it. Fences obviously can withstand a lot of punishment. Double obelisk there, which is going to force me to retreat. I can't hope to engage that. I decide to target the obelisk. Don't quite get it with all 4 of my ZOCOM walkers. I need to get ceramic armor, which I believe has just completed. And I am watching this in my video editor. Now I'm doing these individual games because it's getting near summer now. And if I encode large videos like that are an hour long, it's gonna heat my house up too much. And that's real negative for me. That's why I like to keep the videos short nowadays. And I believe that you guys are enjoying this type of content anyways. See a lot of bike buggy there. He's moving forward with his MCV. He's got a second MCV, which is the real weakness of ZOCOM. They don't have artillery to push back MCVs. I've got this army here. I'm building EMP grenades now. Hammerhead there. Just to clean up that Black Hand squad because I can't move in with my infantry before that's destroyed. I use my EMP, hoping to get a nice hit on these bike buggy. I do blanket EMP the bike buggy. The ZOCOM orcas are just staying put. I've got the sensor pods as well on those orcas. I decide to go in for the Redeemer Engineering Facility. I lose all but one of the ZOCOM orcas. Very costly. That's $4,500 that I just spent to destroy that Redeemer Engineering Facility. But I feel like it was worth it. He's still continuing to spam shredded turrets and obelisks. And I feel like at this point I'm not going to be able to hold on to this expansion for much longer. He's got his tier 3 still alive. I've got an army in his base. There's a second MCV there. Bike buggy will clean this force up. And he took back his tip spike. I'm going to go ahead and grab that spike myself. I need to capitalize and get any advantage that I possibly can. Tip is running a little bit dry for me. That's why I'm making a move for the top base. Bike buggy will take out this army. And I built a couple forces in my bottom field here just to buy a little bit of time so I can get to the top of the map without my MCV being sniped. Those defensive towers are actually paying dividends now. There's a heroic bike there. Fortunately for me, he didn't quite see that. He's going to lose the bike there. I'm not sure if he knew he had a heroic bike, but those ZOCOM walkers, because they cost so much, do grant a lot of XP. Hammerhead there. Another army moving through this middle. And I've got a harvester bug on my expo now. That's terrible for me. that's what's holding back my economy. And I feel like this is the type of play you should do against Nod factions if you're ZOCOM. Just tier 1 and tier 2. Multi-side attacks. Hope to destroy your opponent's infrastructure, so you leave him on one base. If you have a base advantage over your opponent, then you can afford to lose a base to his artillery and base pushing. I feel like that's the way to go. But this game is a long way from being over. I'm going to move up to the top field now. Set up shop there. I've got my EMP ready to go. He's still got lots of Tiberium to harvest and 2 fields. It's very difficult to dig out a Nod player from their bases. Black Hand Squad going to take out my tip spike, which is a little unfortunate. I dealt with a bike buggy rather efficiently. Technique used to do bike buggy on this map and it worked phenomenally well for him. 4 ZOCOM is still alive, still causing huge damage. Shredded turrets here. Now those, if they were marked of Kane ones, would obviously be a lot less balanced. He'd be destroying my infantry with those. Obelisk comes down. Now the one thing I haven't experienced yet is artillery, but that's why I built the ZOCOM walkers. I'm going to aim between both the SAM turret and the obelisk, get both of those structures. A Venom comes in, presumably for a 1-click. And yeah, let's see how this goes. Obelisk back there just to ensure I can't get into that base. I have to be careful. I don't want to expend my forces. I do lose one of my tip spikes, which is unfortunate. I'm going to try and get a refinery down on my other field now. I am long leashing Tiberium, whereas he's having difficulty in doing so. Stealth tanks for him at this point would be good, but I do have pitbulls out and about. All 3 entries to my base have been protected by infantry and vehicles. I've got EMP grenades. I can also use my EMP ability as well, which is why I'm waiting here with the EMP. Do I throw the EMP and get it off? Yeah, I do. It somehow lands. So I decide to use my DPS on the ZOCOM because he's got double engineer in there. So any damage I inflict will be healed up. But Redeemers don't get repaired when they are EMP'd. Or I believe he has a second engineer in there. He may not, but a couple of power plants there I see. I'm going to go ahead and take those ones out. Redeemer moving forward. He decides to move back, obviously, because he's on low health. Harvester Crush comes in for Phoenix. He's going to try and crush that infantry. He actually does manage to save his Redeemer with that. There's a big army there for me, taking out the back of his base. And those ZOCOM walkers going back once again for more ammunition to reload. Base back here, which I need to destroy. I imagine if I take out this power plant here, he's going to be almost certainly on low power. Power plant's a little bit exposed. You want to keep them near buildings where you can place defenses nearby. He, for example, just back then put power plants away from his base so that when his MCB finally moved again, he had no way to put defenses down to, you know, protect his power plants. I see a tier 2. I'm going to go ahead and bomb that because then I can prevent any SAM turrets are being dropped. He doesn't have any SAM turrets there, so it's a good chance for me to send in my ZOCOM walkers and try and do some major damage. Phoenix decides to sell up all of his base there, which is going to confine him to the corner. And it's very difficult as ZOCOM to dig out players who are doing this. But I have to play this very surgically, calm and collected. Still retain that EMP, it's ticking down. He doesn't have any Tiberium left on that field right there, but you'd be surprised how difficult it is digging out a Nod camper. A lot of bike buggy there, I need to be careful. Now that Redeemer is the only thing that's stopping me from just steamrolling into that base. He's got a couple of obelisks there as well. Redeemer has a flamethrower inside of it. I'm long leeching Tiberium. I've got a refinery on that expo. You don't want to put more than one refinery on your expansion field on this map if you can help it, because that's just income that you wouldn't be putting into units. That's a balance you have to make. A lot of players spend too much on eco and harvesters, and they realize later on if their opponent doesn't spend money on that, then he'll get more units. Because in the end of the day, it's not the refineries that wins games, it's units, just pred tanks and hammer hits and ZOCOM walkers. I'm putting down these sensor pods because I was thinking there's no way that my opponent hasn't got more than he has. He's got a bunch of bike buggy there. I was being very cautious. Lots of pred tanks for me, 10 there. And I'm just spending resources on pred tanks. I could have easily teched up by now, but I feel like the way to go here is pred tanks. AP ammo as well online for me, so an infantry transition would be difficult. I see a couple of harvesters there I'm going to take out and just try and retain my position at that bottom field for as long as possible. Harvester's trying to long leech Tiberium. I'm blocking the entry. And that MCV has nowhere to go. Now Phoenix, as of late, he hasn't been really eager to end games when he knows he is in a very dire position. He likes to drag them on, and sometimes that works out for him, like in that tournament Highlands game that Cyber casted. That got how many views? 200,000 views. And it was between him and Futurama. 200,000 views for a Kane's Wrath video cast, which I thought was pretty insane. So that Redeemer there, he's still causing problems. I need more than that to kill it. I need more than 10 seconds of EMP. That's why I queued a Space Command Uplink. The only reason I teched up to tier 3 was for that Space Command Uplink. I also need to get my Orcas back to base for reloading, and then I'll move in with everything. But I'm setting up for one big attack here. There's no need to rush this game. A lot of players, you know, they get a bit nervous when they're playing, especially the newer players. And sometimes you just need to sit in your base and relax, man. I'm in no rush to engage him. I have a spike lead. I've got these towers in the middle and EMP as well. Lots of tier 1 forces. I now have a tier 3. So despite having no artillery, it's kind of fine for me because he doesn't have any artillery of his own. If you can get your opponent to play without that, then ZOCOM is in a very good position. Second MCB as well is no threat. He doesn't have the resources to make a lot of base defenses. So here I decide to use my EMP just to stop him from using that raise gen, and then I decide to finally move in with my tanks. Orcas as well just standing by to get some damage on that Redeemer, and I decide to click on the Redeemer with the tanks just so that when he uses the race generator, the tanks have already attacked the Redeemer, so they're not going to go ahead and attack themselves. There you go, the Redeemer falls. Finally, the bike buggy destroying all my tanks up there. So despite me playing very patiently, if I had made one wrong move there, it would have been game over nonetheless. The Redeemer had to fall. So long as he has a Redeemer and bike buggy alive, Zoc has chances still. ZOCOM had to play this incredibly cautiously. And now it is basically clean up. Got 3 tanks there. I could probably even summon in my Zone Trooper drop pod, which is a really, really good thing to do. Marv coming out for me as well, just for good measure, just to, you know, secure this game once and for all. And as you saw, it took like 5 minutes to win that game, despite me taking out his tech and his infrastructure and stopping him from getting any damage onto my base. But that's more or less how you're supposed to play against Nod or Mark of Kane on this map. I think it would work less against Mark of Kane because of the Schroeder turrets, but I would still do the same style of play because you have no other option. Maybe putting infantry instead of APCs would be an alternative against Mock instead of just infantry on the ground. Maybe not get cyber and field suits and just put infantry and APCs and just move in with that. But yeah, it involves multi-pronged attacks and containing your opponent, trying to get an eco lead as well. So that's game 1. I actually think it's a good idea to include another game, which I feel is pretty awesome on Tournament Creator. I want to show you all a game that I played with Mutant Marauders. This is an extra game here, so don't leave, guys. This is going to be a special treat for you all. We're going to go on to the next game. Alright guys, and this is the next game. I didn't put this in the title nor the thumbnail, but this is just a bonus game for you all to watch. It's a pretty awesome game. Not worth its own video, but I'll include it in this one anyways for you to enjoy. A couple of things happen in this that don't happen too often. So I am contemplating on the neutral structures to take in this map. There's two. There's a defensive, an EMP control center to capture next to your base, or a mutant hovel. It's best to capture the mutant hovel against GDI and Nod factions, but against Scrin, I'd prefer to take the mutant hovel and build a marauder squad just in case they rush you with descents. You can actually prevent your spike from being destroyed if you have a mutant marauder queued at the start. Just one of them though. They also stealth in Tiberium, and they heal also in Tiberium, a bit like Scrin infantry do. This is Tournament Crater, one of my favorite maps. I'm going to be ZOCOM, and my opponent will be the Marked of Kane. So not a great matchup for me, just like the last match. So I guess it somewhat fits the video thematically, ZOCOM versus Nod factions, which is a bit of a coincidence. Not very much happens in the early game in this game. It takes a while to set up eco. For better or worse, refineries are $3,000. That's 30 seconds to Q1. Makes the early game a little bit slow sometimes. In 1.03 it was changed to $2,500, 25 seconds respectively. But I believe $3,000 refineries are okay, as long as there's ample opportunities to punish your opponent for getting too greedy with his eco. If you can punish him for expanding, then that's fine by me. I don't mind the eco changes that were made in 1.02. Besides, this is what we've been used to for many, many years. So what I've done here is I've deployed my refinery on the edge there, just so I can place a barracks down and capture that mutant hovel right away. And versus Marked of Kane, so already this is not a great thing going for mutant hovels. I'm building a rig. Now there is something awesome about my rig nowadays. I've been in the Tiberium Wars demo, and I found there was a difference with the rig. The rig has an animated radar dish on it, and also a glow on the other antenna. Now there was reasons why that was removed in Tiberium Wars and Kane's Wrath, but I fixed it, and I've implemented it into Kane's Wrath all these years later. It was last seen in the demo. It is now going to be in my 4K mod update. I'm just going to make an update for my 4K mod just for that, and several other little fixes, like the Guardian Cannon of GDI now has the railgun upgrade when you are building it, and also supports RGA as well. There's several other fixes that I would like to do in the future, but I'm doing things slowly and gradually. I just like that the rig had missing animations, and it's kind of awesome. The only unit it's one of my favorite units, and it's just amazing to me how that was the only thing that was different. Bridge does get destroyed there. Oh man, that sucked. He's got EMP, which is the one thing that Phoenix lacked in that last game. So that rig is moving in. I've got a couple of mutant marauders inside of those APCs. They're not MRTs which repair themselves. They are just regular APCs. I've got AP ammo on them as well. I see a bunch of beam cannons. And watch this, guys. This was insane. This is the most insane thing ever. So I used an EMP. And look at this Orca Strike here. Watch this, guys. Oh my god, watch this. Hopefully I get this in the camera. Oh my god, dude. Look at that. I killed all of the bike buggy with a ZOCOM Orca Strike. That splash damage from the ZOCOM Orca Strike. I just nailing that bike buggy. I would have lost the game on the spot. Just instant loss if that had not happened. So those two neutral structures at the start, I was able to defend my base with, and the beam cannons just can't seem to shoot. They're trying to, but they're losing their numbers, and for every beam cannon that falls, the damage output is exponentially less. Or is it to the power 2 with the beam cannon? I'm not sure how the beam cannon damage is calculated necessarily, but I know that it's a lot less when you have less beam cannons. ZOCOM Orca is now being queued because I'm using those once more to take out base defenses, key structures of his, like the tier 2. If I can destroy the tier 2, I can deny a tier 3 if he decides to build that. all the beam cannons finally goes down, and I'm like, okay, there's a couple buildings here. I'm going to go ahead and target that tier 2, because if I can kill that, it might prevent a tier 3 from coming down. He does to my... well, I didn't like to see that. He's building a tier... He's got a tier 3 now, which means he can go stealth tanks. So I recognize that, but he can also go for obelisks. That's why I'm now queuing destroying power plants. I destroyed 2 upgraded power plants. Mutant Marauders, I'm going to evac, because if the APC dies and there's infantry in them, you will lose the infantry. An obelisk may die to just mutant marauders. A shredder turret comes down. I don't think he's repairing his obelisk of light. Do I get this? I do. All of the mutant marauders survive. I put them back into the APCs. That rig is still alive down there as well. He can detect harvesters. Now this does look more awesome in the 4K update. And I accidentally went to desktop here. Guys, make sure you disable Windows key on your keyboard if you're playing Kane's Route, because if you accidentally touch it, you'll go to desktop, and that's terrible. Stealth tanks in my base wrecking my harvesters, definitely very problematic for me. I'm losing all my harvesters here. I was forced to call in the Bloodhound support power. That stealth tank causing so much problems. And there's something you can do with the battle base to make it shoot stuff with the missile launcher on the ground. If you focus fire the ground next to a building you want to target, the splash damage from the guarding cannons will attack the building, but also the missile launcher, which is only supposed to shoot aircraft, will also target the building as well. It's technically targeting the ground, but the damage area of effect will hit that building, and you can do a little bit more damage with the rig if you focus fire at the ground. I did not do that here, but that's just a pro tip for you all. Somewhat of a little bit of a bug, but it's very insignificant damage. It's the AA launcher, as you know, not necessarily that great. Stealth tank's still alive. He's got that pesky stealth tank gonna get repairs near the war factory. I'm recovering my eco, but that orca strike in the start was just insane. All the events that happened here were just insane. I could use this mutant marauder to detect the harvester. The rig is also there detecting. It's got a decent stealth detection radius on it. Harvesters all there die. I wouldn't be surprised if he calls a GG, but just like the last game, these players know they're up against ZOCOM. ZOCOM needs a huge advantage to win in these matchups. 2 stealth tanks out here for my opponent. And I do manage to nail the stealth tanks with the EMP control. Really, really sick. Am I going to get this? I do get one of the stealth tanks. A second stealth tank may die as well. He does get away just. And I've got that mutant marauder there. Trying to kill that. Awaken. I do barely have enough damage. There's an enlightened as well. Another mutant marauder squad coming up the ramp. There's an enlightened. I'm going to try and kill that. Mutants do decent damage, but enlightened tanks so much as well. I'm going to kill all the enlightened with the mutant marauder and the awakened squad. Rig's still alive. And I finally have my second expansion up. I'm going to build a second war factory and just queue nothing but pitbulls, because I know it's stealth tanks and I know it's bikes. He did build an enlightened squad, but I can't imagine he has much money to spend on much more of them. The stealth tank falls to the pitbulls. Very, very nice for me. I think that was the pitbull that spawned in from the Bloodhound support power. More marauders being queued, because I was like, YOLO, let's build more of those. And I had a lot of fun on this day. In this game here, I felt like it was worth sharing in this video, just to make the video a little more fun. So not only did I show you all how to counter not factions on Tournament Decision, but you get some mutant marauder action as well. And that ZOCOM Orca Strike was really the highlight of this game. Marauders inside of APCs also do decent DPS. Those beam cannons died incredibly quickly. I put down a couple mines next to his war factory, just so that if anything spawned from the war factory, the unit will spawn and die into the minefield. And that is basically GG here. He can't stop this army. The rig there is unopposed. I can get healing next to that rig. And that is going to be that. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. I've got my alt 4K mod on here. You can see the spikes have a different skin to them. ZOCOM don't have many options against Nod. It's Pred tanks, Orcas. You can't go tier 3. Mav tanks are hopeless. Spirehawks don't do too much because of the fencing, laser fence of the Nod player. But they can be decent for killing power plants. But you need killing 2 upgraded power plants per bombing run is not worth the turnaround time of the ZOCOM Firehawk, in my opinion. Hardpoint Firehawks each individually can kill a power plant, but the ZOCOM ones you need 2. Anyways, guys, hope you all enjoyed these games. And yeah, I hope you all enjoyed it once more. And if you did, then please don't forget to give me a like and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already, to receive notifications of when I upload. And also, if you want to consider supporting my channel, the 4K mod, and a potential future patch for Kane Draft, then head on over to my Patreon and support me with whatever amount you like. Anything is appreciated, guys. You get a few early access content there, and I sometimes share my thoughts on certain things. Anyways, guys, this is going to be me, Master Leaf. Peace out.